One of the most important relationships between different animal species is predation. The predator-prey interaction. In which a predator is prey. Predator species have several adaptations that help them catch prey species. Prey species have adaptations too. Physical and behavioral adaptations that enable them to elude predators and avoid being eaten. These defensive adaptations evolved in prey species through repeated encounters with predators over evolutionary time. Some animals' defense is passive, such as hiding. Some defenses are active, such as escaping. Fleeing or running away is the most direct anti-predator response. Expend a lot of energy. A rabbit uses up a lot of energy running away from lynx. Many animals avoid expending too much energy by escaping into a shelter. Several prey species have some sort of vocalization and alarm call to know the presence of a predator. The alarm call often triggers a behavioral defense called mobbing. During mobbing, the prey turns tail and attacks the predator. For example, when a chickadee spots a threat, when no, it calls out the chickadee starts scolding the sometimes striking it from behind. In the mobbing, the other birds chase, dive, bound, or soar on the usually vocalizing loudly. Their intent is to encourage the enemy to move on to another area. Some animals rely on defensive coloration. A well-known example of defensive coloration is camouflage, which makes the prey difficult to spot against a background of similar color. All a camouflage animal has to do is remain still to avoid being seen. Thus, camouflage is probably the most effective passive defense. Incidentally, some predators also use camouflage, especially predators who lie in wait for prey and how to blend into their environment. Most that camouflage terror too much live stand a good chance of not being birds. Unless, of course, the moth becomes so popular that the bug is correctly to cover by accident. Once the bird learns the moth's identity, it has a search image for it, and the moth's disguise is useless. Looking like a leaf is then no advantage because the bird will start pecking in the leaves in the hope that they are moths, and it will keep doing it as long as there's out to be moths. Another animal defense is the use of chemical weapons. We are all familiar with the chemical weapon of the skunk. Some animals, like poisonous toads and frogs, can synthesize toxic that attacks the nervous system of predator. Other animals acquire chemical defenses passively. For example, some caterpillars acquire poison from the plants they eat. Then, when a bird eats the caterpillar, the bird quickly vomits. After that, the bird will avoid eating that kind of caterpillar. Some birds can remember bad-tasting meals a year later. Another defensive adaptation is warning coloration. Animals with effective chemical defenses are often brightly colored, and there is evidence that the predators are more cautious in dealing with brighter color patterns in potential prey. This is probably because a lot of poisonous or bad-tasting animals are colored brightly with black and yellow or black and red stripes. Warning coloration quickly trains the predator to avoid eating these brightly colored animals. Some birds have an instinctive tendency to avoid eating insects with warning coloration. For example, young warblers leave wasps alone because birds recognize the danger in the black and yellow stripes of the wasp. However, warning coloration is not an absolute defense. There is also evidence showing that many birds occasionally feed on bees and wasps perhaps after learning to cope with their chemical defenses.